Good morning. Many of us who are parents will at some time, however briefly, lost a child. Nearly 40 years on, I still remember losing sight of my eldest son as a toddler in Retford Market, and the sick feeling before we spotted him. He was gone for maybe 40 seconds? Not as bad as the experience of a former work colleague, Clive, who was once in London with his family. They piled onto a tube train and watched as the doors closed, leaving their youngest still on the platform, looking back forlornly at them. They got off at the next station and Clive hurried back. Fortunately, the lad had stayed where he was. On a camping holiday in Wales with another family, my friend Peter and I wandered off into the woods for an adventure without telling anyone. As 8-year-olds, we gave no thought for the fact that the night before there'd been heavy rain and the river running beside the campsite was in full flow. Our parents weren't as relaxed when we finally returned. In our reading this morning, Mary and Joseph only began to look for Jesus once they'd been travelling on the return to Nazareth for a whole day. It was yet another day searching for them once they got back into Jerusalem before they found him in the temple. A total of 3 days was he missing. Of course, we shouldn't look at this incident through modern eyes and maybe judge accordingly. In my opening anecdotes, it was seconds or a couple of minutes at most that the child was absent. A whole day seems positively neglectful. But the Holy Family wasn't travelling alone. It was a large group of pilgrims and extended family that was making the trip, so it wouldn't be out of the ordinary for a child to attach itself to another family group on the journey. But this, of course, is not the focus. What happened to Jesus during those 3 missing days, where he slept, how he fed himself, is beside the point. The heart of the story is that Jesus was found in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking questions. And in all the Gospels, this is the only story we have about Jesus as a child or adolescent. When we next hear about him, he's a man of 30 years. So Luke is writing about an incident he sees as significant. I'll attempt an exploration of what that significance might be after we've sung. George Mpanga is a British spoken word artist, better known by his stage name, George the Poet. His performance poem, The Ends of the Earth, begins, "A child is not a portion of an adult. It's not a partial being. A child is an absolute person, an entire life. The fact that a child is developing doesn't mean it's incomplete." Generally speaking, our society doesn't regard children as absolute persons. We haven't quite dispelled the attitude of children should be seen and not heard. We don't even give children same protections in law that adults take for granted. But engagement with children at an intellectual level benefits adults as well. How often have we heard that we need children in our church because they are the church of tomorrow? Not so. They are the church of today. George the Poet again. Children know things. I'm the proof. There's a certain clarity that comes with youth. Because deep down young people, all people, just want the truth. Of the encounter between Jesus and the teachers, of course, we know the end of the story. We know that this young boy is revealed to be the Messiah, the God incarnate whose birth we celebrated yesterday. But Jesus here is a 12-year-old human boy with the searching mind of a 12-year-old. They found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. And all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. Jesus, in his later ministry, talks often of the insight of children and for his followers to have a childlike, searching mindset. Mark 10:15. Unless you accept God's kingdom with the simplicity of a child, you'll never get in. Another quote from literature to finish, this time from the novelist and playwright Graham Greene. There is always one moment in childhood when the door opens and lets the future in. Maybe this time when Jesus stayed back in Jerusalem without his parents was his moment when the door was opened. Has the door opened for you in your faith journey? If it hasn't quite, maybe it will in 2022. The door is always there. It just needs a gentle push. Happy New Year.